Again, I was on the verge of tears. Tears about what? I didn't know. All I knew is just I felt really lonely.
Nikki, wait, I was gonna ask you,
What?
I lost my train of thought.
Men are lonely, not through any specific deficiency on their part,
But it was in those moments I'd feel most alone. I heard a stat recently from Dr. K, the healthy gamer, that around 50% of men who commit suicide have shown no previous history of mental illness. And I think that's showing something.
Men are facing a big crisis right now. And whether we like to admit it or not, society has created millions of lonely and addicted
Nikki,
men.
wait, I was gonna ask you,
What?
I lost my train of thought.
What should have men taken from Obsession? There will be spoilers going forward, so I will give you a second to go see Obsession and come back. You can't force love or intimacy. No matter how lonely you get, if you try and force your desire onto someone else who is not reciprocating those feelings, something terrible is bound to happen. Whether it's a harsh rejection, a harsh coming to terms of reality, or hopefully not, but given the current state of the world we live in, what if it ends in violence and or death? Sadly, we've seen this happen too frequently in the real world. Obsession explores the very real issue of forcing your feelings onto someone who clearly does not feel the same way. They explore it in a very dramatic and exaggerated sense as the film dips its toes in the supernatural. In doing so, we're able to see the extreme version of be careful what you wish for, and that sometimes being alone is far from the worst thing you can experience on this planet. Instead, you mess with the structure of your friendships. You do something you regret, have a hard time stomaching the repercussions, or reflecting on those actions. Sure, we all have our dream relationship, and sadly enough, in 2026, dating is a nightmare, especially for us millennials and even Gen Z. Obsession picks a perfectly aged friend group as it truly serves as a mirrored reflection of our generation. Bear is the main character of the film, but he is absolutely the antagonist. It is a very interesting view of an antagonist as they attempt to make Bear a good dude who happens to be a bit awkward. For now, he will simply be our main character. Bear struggles with opening up, and I feel for our generation, it is tougher to open up as we either don't want to ruin an existing friendship that is very strong.
why?
Or mainly, we don't want to be viewed as creeps, so we keep our feelings on the inside. And thank you so much, creepy men of the current generation, really making it easy out here for us normies. Anyway, early in the movie, we see Bear struggle with revealing his feelings to Nikki, as he does not want to ruin that friendship, and he's simply reluctant to bare his heart to her. They've been friends since practically childhood after all. A big point I'd like to make, even if not intended by Curry Barker, is that sometimes men can become so lonely, even when surrounded by friends, that he may destroy himself and those around him in the pursuit of searching for love that is not genuine. He may even do unspeakable acts while having immense internal conflict. What is so powerful about this movie that gets overlooked is the fact that Bear is a normal, everyday nice guy who's a bit nervous, and he's thrown into an actual monkey's paw situation where things spiral out of control. Hell, until near the end, Bear goes from being freaked the fuck out to defending Nikki's insane behavior in that same moment. I mean this. Think critically on what you would do after the dinner date scene.
What?
No, 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 no.
We are. Sit
Why
down.
does it matter? I thought we were having a nice
We are.
date.
We are.
I'm willing to bet both of my balls that a good majority of dudes would legitimately be freaked out by the insane behavior, but still give attempts to justify and defend her actions internally. The lengths some men would go for connection is even more insane if you consider that Bear was essentially S.A.ing Nikki the entire relationship, as she was just a backseat passenger in her own body. Jesus, Bear. Come on, brother. And it's even worse if you remember that he had a chance to talk to the real Nikki, who was quite literally screaming for help on the phone. Even after the cat incident, he still mentally attempts to justify staying in this fucked up situationship when he's the only one who can stop it. Instead, he allows his desire for connection to outweigh the ramifications of continuing this supernatural situation. Take this view, but simplify it on a smaller scale. This internal mental battle that Bear is stuck in is one that I see many people either relating to or have experienced. Should you stay in toxicity because you simply don't want to be alone? And I think this very much highlights the simple fact that men are scared of their feelings and facing them, and for some, that only leads to taking action. Now, I'm trying to carefully ride the line between incel and perhaps a lost, good-hearted soul who just needs some guidance. An incel is set in their ways and objectively hate women. Now, I do not at all think that Bear is an incel, nor do I think he's a good guy by the end of the film. He finds himself falling into the category of men who get stuck in the friend zone and does something crazy to attempt to fill the void by getting the girl. Through his isolation from love, Bear makes a wish. He makes a wish using some witch magic via a stick that he got in one of those small spiritual new age shops. And to Bear's surprise, the wish that he made for Nikki to love him more than anyone else in the world comes true. He now lives with this wish as Nikki is head over heels for him. It's not organic. He knows something is really off, wrong. Nikki is essentially under a spell ever since Bear made his wish via the One Wish Willow. While under the spell, Nikki grows extremely jealous and crash outs more than once in small acts of violence towards herself that grow into huge acts of violence towards others. He still commits to his relationship with her even after his friends are essentially begging him to stop. Loneliness has consumed Bear and regret. Now he's harming himself but also those around him. Before the wish, Bear's dropping Nikki off. She asks him if he likes her. He's too scared to admit it out loud. Nikki mentions it's fine and says that she just wants to go to sleep, and bam. She's about to walk inside, Bear makes his wish, and right after he does, the tone of the film shifts immediately, gesturing to us to be careful what you wish for. Things grow to be so bad that Bear knows the situation has grown beyond measure, as Nikki has shown extreme violence to herself to simply vie for Bear's attention. Is Bear freaked out? Yes. Does he leave her? Hell no. Bear would rather not be alone than to admit that his relationship is not only failing, but is extremely dangerous. Bear essentially becomes our antagonist, all the while attempting to retain parts of his innocence to us viewers as we're strapped into his POV. Now we've all done something that we've come to regret. Hopefully they are small things, but regret is regret, and Bear is full of regret, as he has destroyed the beloved lives around him quite literally, including the girl that he loved dearly. It takes the death of everyone he knows, including his cat, for him to accept the fact that he can never repair what he's done. Something done out of loneliness, a last-ditch effort of love. Bear takes his life knowing it's the only way to free Nikki from his wish. Nikki is transformed into a full love demon at this point, while the real Nikki is buried away, and we're led to believe that she was aware of everything happening but had no control over her actions. Was the pain that Bear caused his friends and loved ones justified? Absolutely not. Was it intended? Hell no. Bro was making a wish via a hippie stick that he found in some new age shop. He was simply attempting to leave his loneliness behind and hopefully get to venture in a true love. He broke the wishing stick on a whim, as if it were a joke. Could Bear have done things differently, such as attempt to remedy the situation and not essay Nikki? He absolutely could have and should have, but I'm glad Barker kept this in to physically demonstrate that eternal conflict that Bear was going through mentally. Some may argue that what Bear did was not essay since Nikki appears to initiate it, but she's not in her right mind, literally. The wish has taken over. The fact that it's even debatable worries me. The irredeemable actions we see from Bear stems from a place of vast loneliness that I think a lot of men can identify with. Whether some of you hide behind those alpha male personas, we're all just looking for love. Obsession highlighted to me that self-love is always superior to external love from someone else, but mainly it highlighted the loneliness epidemic, particularly with men, and the dangers that it poses, the lengths that they can go. Obsession showed a dude go from a nervous good guy lover boy to a literal life-threatening incel. Sadly enough, it happens in real life as well. I mean, look at the lengths Bear actually went to. If the wish did work for us in real life, how many of us would snap the wishing willow, wishing for our dream partner? I'd say 99% of us. That number would probably drastically fall if we knew the future ramifications of making said wish. But the point is, we'd at least think on it, and more than likely, even make the wish knowing what may happen. At the end, Nikki is free, but left with the trauma of losing her entire friend group and someone who she may or may not have genuinely fallen in. The wish murdered her friends, but Nikki was stuck as the passenger in the back seat, witnessing it with no control. We never get clarity on Nikki's feelings for Bear. Now, kind of like a game of telephone, we hear from Bear's friend that Nikki told her that she always just saw him as a little brother. And it's hard to tell if that's real or not, as Nikki asks Bear if he likes him to tell her now, before he even thinks about making the wish. And he can't. But even with that, we don't get true clarity on Nikki's feelings for Bear. It's left ambiguous, and maybe if he organically tried for a relationship with her, then maybe it would have happened. The point is to take risks, better yourself, to get rid of that loneliness that may one day bring you down a path of snapping a one-wish willow. Fall in love with yourself, because at least you can control what happens there. And in doing so, you'll find a love so passionate that it rocks your world, instead of forcing yourself into a parasitic relationship full of bloodshed and regret. Bear fumbled the bag multiple times, as some of us would, and at the end, he pays the ultimate toll. I genuinely am curious how many of us would do the same. I've heard so much about Nikki being so relatable, and I completely get it, but what about Bear? The nervous yet friendly guy who is both outgoing and shy. Not bad looking, but not a male model. And I fully identified with Bear, aside from the irredeemable choices that he makes. I mean, he knew that the wish worked immediately, even if he didn't 100% believe it. That is what we are exploring here. Who knows what lengths you would go to for finding true love, especially when clouded in a fog of loneliness. Would you snap a stick? What causes one to overdose on the drug we call love, leading to an actual lethal overdose of medication? Which is how Bear goes out, and he got off pretty easy in my opinion. Nikki is the one who is left with a lifetime of trauma, survivor's guilt, and having to explain to people or officials what happened. And is the loneliness epidemic so bad that some of us would still snap the wishing willow and make that wish anyways? I think it's more than possible. I have so much more to comment on from this film, but for this video, I wanted to focus on what I believe is a central theme: destruction through loneliness. Thank you so much for checking out my little video. Obsession is a very unique take of be careful what you wish for from the perspective of lonely men, which is very apt in these current times. Even if you clicked on and got spoiled for the movie, I'd still recommend with every fiber of my being that you all go see Obsession in theaters where the atmosphere and the attention is unbeatable. See you next time, friends, and you know, be careful what you wish for.